Hello, welcome to our one of the discussions in graduation philosophy of religion paper. In this paper, today we shall be discussing the basic tenets of Islam. Let's start with the historical background. During the 6th century AD, the Arab states suffered a very great religious and social disillusionment that was expressed through the excesses of perversity, alcoholism, gambling, and other similar activities. People of this country prayed to a variety of gods and goddesses, which means that there were traces of polytheism. The men did not have any respect for women. The entire nation was divided into small principalities, the kings and the leader of which engaged in unending squabbles. Arabs were prone to murder each other at the smallest provocation since they did not attach any great value to human life. Here comes Prophet Muhammad. At such a time, in the year 570 AD, Hazrat Muhammad was born in a trader's family in Mecca to Abdullah and Amina, his father and mother respectively. His father had passed away before his birth, and when he was 6 years of age, his mother also passed away. He was then looked after and brought up by his uncle Abu Talib. When he grew up, he took to trade, and because of his honesty, he came to be known as Amin, meaning one who can be trusted, one who is reliable, credible, and trustworthy. At the age of 25, he married a 40-year-old widow called Khadija, the first of a number of wives, all of whom took active interest in Islam. Even at a very early age, Muhammad would fall into a trance and meditate upon God, and in the same condition, he would preach to all those who collected to listen. Later on, these sermons were collected and put together in the holy book Quran. Muhammad launched a severe attack on the practice of idol worship. He insisted upon the equality of men and the perversity of distinguishing between one another on any pretext whatsoever. He also insisted that his disciples must perform the following five activities: kalam recitation, namaz, fasting, giving zakat or alms, and going on Hajj pilgrimage. On one hand, these ideas were circulated among the people rapidly, while on the other, they were seriously objected to by the Arabs. As a result of this, Muhammad was compelled to quit Mecca on 24 September 622 AD and proceed to Medina. From this date begins the Mohammedan calendar. In Medina, Muhammad was given a lively treatment, and soon he had gathered around him a group of devoted followers which he led with vigor as well as rigor. He established some rules, the obedience to which was obligatory for his followers. Rules such as praying with one's face turned towards Mecca, treating Friday as the holiday, fasting during the month of Ramzan, traveling to Kaaba, etc. This practice helped to distinguish between his followers and the Jews and the Christians. Now let's talk about development of Islam. In 630 AD, Muhammad attacked Mecca with his army of followers and overran it and gradually spread Islamic religion in that region. Islam, in its widest etymological sense, means the path of peace. By 632 AD, Muhammad had strengthened the central government of Medina and had also captured Hejaz and Najd as well as parts of Arab country. In 632 AD only, at the age of 62, Muhammad passed away. After the death of the Prophet, Islam continued on its glorious path and soon spread to many parts of the world, particularly Iraq, Iran, and Central Asia, where it had spread even before the turn of the century. In 638 AD, Jerusalem was captured and Alexandria in 647 AD. By 651 AD, entire Persia had been subdued, while in 670 AD, the armies of Khalifa marched on Tunisia. By 700 AD, all traces of Roman kingship had been removed from Syria, and by 712 AD, the Mohammedans had taken over Sindh in India, the year in which They also established the government of Spain. In this manner, by the year 750 AD, Muslim religion had spread from the Palme Mountains in the east of Asia to the Pyrenees Mountain of France in the west, also to Spain. Now let's talk about the four Caliphs of Islam. Four Caliphs were mainly responsible for the progress of Islam, the four being the heirs to Muhammad. These were Abu Bakr, among them helped to capture parts of Syria and Mesopotamia. Omar, another Khalifa, carried the flag of his religion to Iran, Egypt and Syria. Usman undertook the task of subduing Afghanistan and parts of Africa, while Iraq was left to Khalifa Ali to capture. On the one hand, these four caliphs were ruthless warriors, while on the other hand, the people of Arabia, Iran, and other adjoining countries were passing through a terrible phase of complete moral, social, and religious degeneration, which has turned their downfall. Islamic religion progressed on account of the personal esteem, while the caliphs won for themselves among their followers. Besides the use of sword to enforce, religion hastened the process. Another significant factor which helped Islam was the sense of unity that existed among its ranks, and although it cannot be denied rationally that the sword played the greatest part in winning dominions for this new religion, there can equally be no doubting that the higher character of the Caliphs, coupled with the Islamic message of equality and brotherhood, helped to win the success it did achieve. Now let's talk about the compilation of Quran. All the main tenets of Islamic religion are inscribed in the Quran, the religious text, the original form of which is believed to be inscribed on slates and placed in the seventh heaven. Literally, the term Quran means a lesson. As the legend goes, the Quran was read out to Muhammad by Zabreel at the direction of Allah, and it was left to Muhammad to give it to form it has at the present. All that Muhammad pronounced in a state of trance or meditation was written on pieces of leather or bark of trees, a process that continued for 32 long years. After the death of Muhammad, Khalifa Abu Bakr collected all the instructions and compiled them into the Quran. This compilation contained 114 chapters, of which 90 are collected at Mecca. Other 24 chapters are placed at Medina. 90 smaller chapters are devoted to descriptions of the uniqueness of Allah, man's duty, and the day of judgment of Qiyamah. 24 main chapters are devoted to social organization, social conduct, social thoughts, etc., in addition to the subjects covered by the smallest chapter. Now let's talk about the chief tenets of Islam. Islam literally means entering peace, and it is believed that faith in this religion leads to the formation of peaceful relationship between man and God. Islam has three main components, three main parts. Iman, meaning religious faith. Ibadat, meaning prayer or worship. And Ihsan, meaning moral behavior. Let's discuss them one by one. Let's start with Iman. Iman means the generation of faith within one's own heart in Allah, His angels, His agents, and in the day of judgment, that is Qiyamah. Muhammad was the prophet of Islamic religion, and he is also called Nabi and Rasul. Nabi means an agent or messenger of God, and Rasul meaning a religious messenger. So more or less both mean the same. For a Muslim, it is essential to believe that Muhammad was a messenger of God and a religious prophet. The basic tenets of Islamic religion mean, when translated, that, quote unquote, no one, absolutely no one other than God deserves to be deified or prayed to or offered supplication, and that Muhammad is the religious messenger of God. According to Quran, it is kufr or wrong to refuse to believe in Allah and Rasul, and one who does not entertain such belief is called a kafir. According to Quran, there is one Allah who is objective and uninterested, yet at the same time he observes, enjoys, becomes angry, takes pity on his disciples, and destroys their enemies. Islam also professes faith in the existence of angels or farishta, to whom is delegated the responsibility of communicating the wishes of God to his messengers. Such angels were visible to Muhammad on account of his angelic vision. Now let's discuss ibadat. According to Islam, prayer to Allah does not require the presence of any idol or worship of any priest. Man should always remind himself of the existence of Allah. This kind of ibadat has the following 5 steps, popularly known as the 5 pillars of Islam. These are Shahada, Namaz, Zakat, Roza, and Hajj. Now let's discuss all of these 5 pillars one by one. Let's start with Shahada. Devoted repetition of the fundamental tenets of Islam is called Shahada. The Islamic monastic thought, which is called Tawheed, is based on this fundamental saying, which provide the religion with its 2 basic principles. These are, there is but one Allah and Muhammad is his real messenger. Now, namaz. Islam requires that each of its followers should repeat the prayer 5 times a day, facing towards Mecca, while on the holy day, which is Friday, this prayer should be recited in a communal gathering. Then the zakat. It is decreed that each Muslim shall contribute 1/40th of his annual income, amounting to some 2.5%, to the general fund, which is utilized in the care of unfortunate poor people and in the upkeep of the places of worship, that is, only the mosques. Then Roza. For a Muslim, it is essential to fast during the month of Ramzan, for it is believed that Quran first arrived on earth in the holy month of Ramzan. During the Roza, the religious devotees eat only once a day after the setting of the sun. And the Hajj. It is believed essential for a Muslim to make at least one trip to Mecca Sharif and Medina without incurring any kind of debts or borrowing for the journey. In this ritual, the visitor wears a gown and makes 7 rounds of Kaaba, which is called Tawaf. Besides, he makes 7 trips between Al Safa and Marwaha and performs other actions prescribed in the ritual and sacrifices a horned animal, a beast. In addition to the above 5 steps which are part of Ibadat, Jihad, crusade or religious war is also held essential by some sects among the Muslims. Jihad is of 2 kinds. The lower one is called Jihad-e-Asghar, in which a war is waged against the non-believers, that is the Kafirs, and Jihad-e-Akbar, in which a bigger war man fights against his own instincts and drives and wins over them. And finally, the third tenet known as Ihsan. Ihsan literally means that man should avoid all bad actions and perform the good ones, as the two are distinguished by the Quran. Islam decrees that the highest action man is capable of is the complete subjugation of self to the will of God through knowledge, that is ilm, and action, that is amal. This objective has validity for individual as well as social life. Now with this we come to the impact of Islam. There were various impacts, let's say like Parda Pratha, like Sati Pratha, like development of new kind of recipes, way of dressing, and introduction of a new language known as Urdu, and finally leading to enrichment of our architecture, literature, culture, and so on. But the most important impact of Islam is seen in the form of origin and development of Sufism as a unique sect. Some consider it as a part of Islam while some don't. Many different meanings are attributed to the term Sufi, From the philosophical standpoint, the Sufi sect lean towards the mystic tradition, while taken etymologically, the word implies anything which is extracted from wool. Sufi was a term applied to those individuals who went through life wearing a woolen gown, spending their life in meditation and prayer. Other scholars are of the opinion that the term Sufi is derived from the root Safa, which is applicable to the platform built by Muhammad in the Mosque of Medina. Hence, the term Sufi applied to those benevolent and pure but homeless people who spend their time sitting on this platform and meditating upon this life and the hereafter. According to Ghazali, the term Sufi implies a man's remaining at peace with the world in meditation upon. Now let's talk about the influence of Sufism. The term Sufi was first applied in 816 AD to Abu Hashim, an individual belonging to Sham. In the 9th century, the Sufi sect was famous throughout Iraq with Baghdad as its center. During the 20th century, Abu Yazid Zubayd and Mansur al-Hazzaz propagated monistic thoughts. Well, it is believed that Sufi Mansur came to India and that he studied yoga and Advaita Vedanta in this country and was punished for this by being poisoned to death at the hands of his enemies. It was Sheikh Moinuddin ibn al-Arabi who took up the burden of propagating the sect after the death of Mansur. Such famous Persian poets as Iraqi and Kirmani gave expression to the beliefs of this thought. In the 11th century, Al-Ghazali tried to reconcile Islam and the Sufi philosophy. Sufis believe in a single God who is truth or haq, goodness or khaira, and beauty or zamal. Now let's talk about the philosophical teachings of Sufism. It says, the entire universe is believed to be an appearance of the manifestation of God, and it is only on account of his folly and overbearing arrogance that man considers himself to be distinct from God. Every Sufi aims at the destruction of this blinding arrogance, and the only means to this end is the love of God. Sufis believe that corporeal or physical love is a step in the achievement of the supernatural love for God. Since physical love acquaints man with the difficulties that beset this path and prepares him for journey along the path of supernatural love. Sufi disciples believed that God was their beloved and spent their entire time and life in waiting for the moment when they would glimpse her. Thank you.